You're not saying you think Republicans are gonna stop it?
I don't think Donald Trump wants another election. You think for a second I have 24 Trump 2028 hats. His folks keep sending me.
Gavin Newsom 2028 presidential campaign. He's grandstanding and making a clown of himself because he wants national attention. He tried the moderate thing for a month and realized it wasn't raising him any funds.
Picture this. Gavin Newsom, California's golden child with hair glossier than a shampoo ad, just got ambushed by none other than Lindi Li, and it wasn't pleasant. We're talking full-on political roast with evidence flying quicker than his approval numbers can sync. This isn't your typical clapback. It's the sort of takedown that leaves you questioning if Newsom barber can also repair reputations. Buckle up, because Lindi didn't just reveal him, she left him pleading for the erase button.
Trump crusader, because he realizes that it helps him with his coffers and his fundraising. So that's why he's on a tear, and he's a complete hypocrite. And I just saw that California now leads the nation in homelessness and unemployment. Maybe he should focus on that.
This is a guy who retweeted himself on Mount Rushmore. This is a guy who retweeted himself, dare I say, as Pope.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's hawking a Trump Bible. This is a guy who's out there selling perfume and with one of the great grifts, a coin.
But I want to get to the Trump is not hot. So
this is a guy who has merchants.
If you're liking, please subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you realize. Gavin Newsom has always imagined himself as the political version of a polished magazine cover. The smile, the hair, the neatly rolled up sleeves like he's about to repair California with a few swings of a hammer from crate and barrel. He's the guy who probably practices hand gestures in the mirror before a press briefing, making sure every shrug shouts empathy while every smirk murmurs future president.
He tried to be a moderate for about a month. I think it was April,
when he started his podcast.
Exactly. He started his podcast. He had Charlie Kirk on. He tried the moderate shtick. Realized that it didn't get him the donations that he wanted. And then he was like, wait a minute. Being an anti-Trump crusader actually gets me money. I want people to be aware that a lot of what politicians say on TV, on social media every day is to get the coffers, to get money rolling into the coffers, to get their fundraising machine.
But the thing about shiny covers, one mark and suddenly the glow peels off to reveal the flimsy cardboard underneath. Enter Lindi Li, stage left, holding not a scrape, but a blowtorch. Now you might be wondering, what could possibly shake a man who endures wildfires, blackouts, and San Francisco brunch trends all in one political lifetime? Well, apparently being revealed by someone who isn't impressed by his Hollywood Governor Act.
I do want to say that $1 billion in 100 days is not just run of the mill. This is astounding. And I have a duty of care to my donors who gave millions of dollars, and it wasn't easy for them to give. Some of them were paying in installments. It was a sacrifice for them. They looked for ways to give. So, people gave their hearts and souls to the campaign. They deserve a serious accounting to see why we were told that she was close or even winning in some of the swing states, but we lost all 7.
What did they say? We heard on the podcast, but what did they say on this call? Did they accept any blame? Did they sort of talk about mistakes that were made?
No.
Because while Gavin's been busy rehearsing his commander-in-chief and waiting hair tosses, Lee showed up with receipts so crushing they made California's rolling blackouts look like candlelight. Let's rewind though. Gavin Newsom has built a career on being the guy who seems like he was destined to run for office. He doesn't enter a room, he glides in like a fragrance commercial, making everyone subconsciously reach for their purses. His entire image rests on the idea that California is this paradise dreamland, and he's the sun-kissed hero keeping it alive.
But not only did Gavin Newsom lie, he was the biggest liar. He was the one, and I was there. He was the one in the spin room lying to the entire world on the night of the debate, saying it was just a cold, nothing to see here, move along. But he is such a congenital liar.
Except reality doesn't exactly match the postcard. Homelessness is surging like someone left the stove on. Taxes could make Elon Musk sob into his shares. And businesses are escaping the state like it's a finale of Survivor. Yet somehow, Gavin still manages to twist it as though California is flourishing. It's almost remarkable, really. Like watching a magician pull endless ribbons out of a hat while ignoring the elephant stomping the audience. And people kept cheering until Lindi Li decided to interrupt the magic Magic Act and yell, "That's not a rabbit, it's a rat in a tuxedo." So who exactly is Lindi Li? She's not just some random Twitter profile firing off hot takes between cappuccinos. She's someone with a sharp enough tongue to shred Gavin's carefully stacked image like it's bargain birthday cake. When she speaks, people listen. And this time, she didn't just toss shade, she darkened the whole room. Her exposure of Newsom wasn't just the routine political mudslinging. No, Li went for the throat. She called out his glaring shortcomings, the kind of problems his shiny speeches couldn't polish out. Take homelessness, for example. Gavin's been dumping billions into tackling it, but somehow the issue only grows larger, like a sourdough starter that nobody knows how to manage. Li pointed out the obvious, that throwing cash at the crisis without oversight is less remedy and more pricey band-aid that keeps slipping off. And for a man who prides himself on repairing things, being told he can't even manage to fix sidewalks without tents popping up must burn.
Instead of focusing his time on this complete waste of taxpayer money, he has no agenda items. He has nothing positive to offer the American people. The only thing he cares about is himself. Everything is about him. And even Democrats understand this guy is truly fake. He's if you look up snake oil salesman in the dictionary, you would see his face right next to the definition.
I wasn't sure if it was going to be snake oil or hair grease or hair products, but you never know.
Actually,
probably both.
Then there's the flight of businesses. California is supposed to be the cradle of innovation, the place where Silicon Valley bros design apps that deliver artisanal toast to your door. But lately, CEOs are loading up their Teslas and bolting for Texas quicker than you can say no state income tax. And Li made sure everyone noticed, because if your state is losing billion-dollar firms to the land of barbecue and cowboy boots, maybe the California dream isn't so dreamy anymore. But Li didn't stop there. She honed in on the hypocrisy, the ambition, the barely veiled fact that Newsom seems more focused on polishing his presidential audition reel than running the state he already holds. It's like California is just his rehearsal stage and every crisis is another line in his soliloquy. Meanwhile, the crowd, aka the residents, are left asking why their rent costs more than a Tesla Model 3 payment. And this is where the embarrassment factor kicks in. Newsom's entire shtick is being untouchable. The cool kid at the political cafeteria table. He's the guy with the perfect comebacks, the practice smirks, the aura of inevitability. But Li crushed that by treating him less like a presidential prospect and more like a politician who's botching his current job. She peeled away the glamour and exposed a man who looks less like the future of the Democratic Party and more like a failed landlord who keeps promising to fix the plumbing next week.
What drives you crazy? That people still speculate that you're waiting in the wings to run for president? I know it's not going to happen. You know it's not going to happen. But what do you think is fueling that speculation?
I don't know. I don't think much anymore. And I'm so proud of the president and the incredible job he did. Didn't surprise me at all. And I know it didn't surprise you. I really believe that. I said to my friend the other day, I said, you know, on this age, and we can get into debates around fitness. Look, I'd rather have 80 years behind me than those 88 federal criminal counts in front of me. And so I feel very good about Joe Biden's prospects.
The best part, it wasn't some theatrical takedown on live television. It was sharper because it was direct, piercing, and grounded in truths that Californians endure every single day. That's what makes it burn. When someone says the emperor has no clothes, you can shrug it off. But when someone says the emperor's palace has roaches, mold, and a dripping roof, suddenly the emperor looks more like a slum boss than royalty. Reactions came swiftly. The press smelled blood in the tide, and even people who once believed Newsom was invincible started lifting eyebrows because nothing wrecks a carefully polished image faster than a jolt of reality, especially when it's delivered with accuracy. Lindi Li didn't just reveal Gavin's flaws, she disgraced him by making his entire persona look like a scam pamphlet for a vacation resort that actually has bed bugs. And the fallout, oh, it's tasty. Californians already fed up with their rent, their energy bills, and their traffic suddenly had a voice saying what they've been thinking all along. Maybe Gavin isn't the golden child he thinks he is. Maybe he's just the guy who photographs well on a campaign poster, but can't run a state without it looking like a discarded Mad Max set. And if you're eyeing the Oval Office, having someone expose you as a glorified hair model with a collapsing portfolio is less than ideal.
He mentions 4 machinations that he plans to use in order to circumvent Trump, or in his words, Trump-proof democracy. And I just want to say, before I go into the 4 different measures, he is basically saying the American people cannot be trusted to make the right decision. So I have to engage in these really slimy and subversive measures to undermine the will of the American people.
Because here's the twist. People can excuse a lot of things in politics. Scandals, blunders, even lousy policy. But what they don't excuse is hypocrisy. And Li spotlighted Gavin's hypocrisy like it was a Broadway act. While he's out here posing as the future savior of America, his own state is bleeding money, residents, and patience. That contrast doesn't just bruise his ego, it wrecks the entire storyline he's been crafting. And suddenly, Gavin's not the dazzling frontrunner anymore. He's the guy scrambling for a rebound, trying to spin away from the disgrace. But the problem with being exposed is once people notice the cracks, they can't unnotice them. No amount of hairspray or polished speeches can hide it up. The disgrace didn't stop at the reveal itself. That was just the spark. What really turned this into a full-blown bonfire was how fast it spread. Because Gavin Newsom is used to steering the narrative, he's the master of appearing calm while the house blazes behind him. But when Lindi Li struck the match, suddenly the smoke was everywhere, and Gavin was the guy flailing his arms like an overpaid firefighter who misplaced his hose. The first wave of shame came from the press. Normally, journalists treat Gavin like a shiny toy they don't want to dent, dutifully writing up his every press briefing as though he's dropping pearls of wisdom instead of recycled talking points.
If you're not going to be a good person, can you please not be a pathological liar at the very least?
He's unable to do that. They're conjoined.
I want to say, so he is out there doing a 180 on trans, but he's been on the forefront of trans advocacy all these years. Are you treating us like, why are you treating us like idiots? Or that we were born yesterday? We remember distinctly, he was one of the most ardent trans warriors. Not only that, he has the gumption to rewrite history and say that he knew all along that Biden's brain was melting.
But Li's candor was too sharp to dismiss. Her points weren't abstract, they were brutally obvious. Homelessness isn't some hidden statistic. It's tents on sidewalks. It's syringes in playgrounds. It's the kind of thing even tourists can't overlook when they visit San Francisco expecting Golden Gate selfies, and instead get zombie apocalypse extras roaming the streets. So when Li spelled out the failures, the press had no option but to pounce. And here's the wild part. Media sharks crave blood, especially when it drips from someone they once treated like political royalty. Suddenly, stories weren't just about Gavin's polished speeches and his perfectly timed eyebrow lifts. They were about the wreck beneath the hair gel. And nothing makes a politician sweat like watching the people who once kissed the ring suddenly dig around for dirt. The second wave came from Californians themselves. Because let's be real, Gavin's always had this strange ability to make crises sound like minor hassles. Wildfires, just a little haze. Homelessness, we're addressing it. Taxes, a necessary burden. Blackouts, think of them as candlelight dinners. But Californians aren't falling for it anymore. You can only sell people on sacrifice for so long before they realize they're the ones paying the bill while their governor rehearses for national spotlight.
Go through the force.
His first thing is a special election.
What does that mean?
A special session of the state legislature. He would just call them back and have them do a lightning round of Trump-proof measures that will circumvent his immigration enforcement and other, for example, the deployment of the National Guard. Basically, Trump-proof anything.
He lost that in court, but he doesn't have that power.
He lost. He is lying. He's just saying whatever. As I said before, he's just saying whatever he thinks his audience wants to hear.
Lindi Li gave them words for that frustration. She didn't say anything Californians didn't already sense. She just said it louder, sharper, and without the shiny filter Gavin loves so much. Suddenly, the coffee shops, the dinner tables, the Reddit threads, they were humming. People who once shrugged and accepted the chaos started asking, if this guy can't handle California, how's he supposed to handle the entire country? It's like watching a chef burn toast and then insist he's ready to run a Michelin star kitchen. And then came the political insiders. You know, the people who pretend to adore you until you look weak, and then they start circling like vultures at a feast. Gavin's been propped up as a possible presidential contender for years, partly because he looks like central casting sent him over from generic future president the film, but Li's takedown chipped away at that shine. When your state is losing residents and companies, when your policies look more like Instagram captions than actual answers, and when someone like Li calls you out in a way that sticks, you start to look less like a savior and more like damaged stock. And let's not downplay the embarrassment of being exposed by someone outside your usual arena. If it had been a political opponent, Gavin could have brushed it off as part of the game. If it had been the press, he could have cried bias. But Lindi Li, she came at him from an angle he couldn't ignore. It's like a boxer getting sucker punched by the water boy. You weren't expecting it, and now you're flat on your back while the crowd roars.
But Gavin Newsom was on the front lines of defending Biden. He wasn't just a defender and champion of Biden. He was the strongest. He debated DeSantis on the national stage. He went out of his way to, frankly, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He lied to the American people about the fitness of the president. He went out there again and again and said he was fine. Meanwhile, people like me were punished.
Of course, Gavin tried to twist his way out of it. That's his trademark. Take a disaster, sprinkle some charm, and persuade people it's fine. But here's the catch. When the receipts are obvious, charm looks like panic. He can claim he's fixing homelessness, but people still see tents outside Whole Foods. He can boast about California's innovation economy, but people know their friends are loading U-Hauls for Nevada. He can fantasize about the White House, but everyone else is wondering if he's even fit to run a HOA meeting. That's why Li's humiliation hit so hard. She didn't just reveal Gavin's failures, she revealed the gap between his ambition and his reality. He wants to be president, but he's running California like it's a badly managed group project. He wants to be seen as the progressive visionary, but his vision apparently doesn't include people being able to afford their rent. He wants to be the golden child of the Democratic Party, but lately, he's looking more like fool's gold, the kind that glitters until you realize it's worthless. And the best part, this humiliation has staying power. Most political scandals are like bad reality TV episodes. Loud for a week, then gone. But Li's takedown lingered because it tapped into real, ongoing frustrations. Californians don't need to be reminded of their daily struggles. They live them. Companies don't need headlines to explain why they're leaving. They're already gone. Newsom can't squirm out of this one by flashing a grin because the receipts are too glaring.
Orders aren't suggestions, and laws aren't optional. If you cannot handle your own state, the President of the United States has every right to come in. And right now, Gavin Newsom is treating public safety, he's treating our lives and our treasure as his plaything for his presidential campaign. His priority isn't the safety and the well-being of the American people. It's his own political preservation. He's positioning himself, trying to have it both ways, trying to pretend that he's all for illegal aliens, and then also that he's moderate. He cannot have it both ways.
So where does that leave him? In a very uneasy spot. The man who's been strutting around like the heir apparent suddenly looks fragile. His rivals smell weakness. His supporters start hedging their bets. And every time he shows up on TV, people don't just see the hair and the smile. They hear Lindi Li's words echoing in the background, reminding them that beneath the polish is a man overseeing a collapsing California. And Gavin knows it. That's the most crushing part. He can feel the storyline slipping. The humiliation isn't just public, it's personal, because when you've built your entire image on being untouchable, nothing stings deeper than someone proving you're very, very touchable.